It's been about a year since New York's medical marijuana dispensaries opened their doors for the first time. And since then, the state's program has made some big changes. Just last month, chronic pain was added as an acceptable condition.
And News 4's Jen Shantz has been covering medical marijuana here in Western New York since the Compassionate Care Act first rolled out. This latest story took her out west, right, Jen?
Don, that is right. Here in Western New York, there's a name medical marijuana patients all know. It's Dr. Laszlo Mechler. He was one of the first doctors to certify for the program and has continued to be one of its largest advocates. But it's not just here in the Empire State where his name means something. The director of the Dent Cannabis Clinic has been called upon by a cannabis giant in Colorado to help them merge into the medical market. Together, we visited a grow operation never before accessed by the media. In the heart of downtown Denver, you'll find TGS corporate headquarters. The company has the top 3 floors of a high-rise on 17th Street. It looks like your typical high-end business, and in some ways, it is. The founders wear suits and discuss ideas in fancy boardrooms. But these entrepreneurs aren't in finance or real estate. They're in pot. TGS stands for the Green Solution. It's the brainchild of 4 brothers, developers looking for a new venture after the housing bubble in 2008.
As you start something like this, you never really believe that it's ever going to reach a height, at the peak at which we are today. But I really feel like we're actually probably only halfway up the mountain.
The mountain's already pretty big. TGS is one of the largest recreational or adult use cannabis companies in all of Colorado. It has more than a dozen dispensary locations and some of the largest indoor facilities in the country. But there's something important they don't have yet, a stronghold on the medical market.
I think a medical perspective is important, and that's what has been lacking in the medical community and the basic community of growing marijuana is an institute or a physician input.
Executives at TGS are teaming up with Buffalo doctor Laszlo Mechler to get that input and develop a new product line. It's called Mend. It will be a brand name for medical cannabis specifically for pain patients. The hope is that Mend will offer patients dealing with pain from fibromyalgia, migraines, or neuropathy a trusted name for relief. Dr. Mechler says to think of it as the Tylenol or Aleve for cannabis.
The unique merging of these companies where you've got New York State, which has very limited conditions, very limited supply, but we can go to Colorado, which frankly the recreational market has somewhat overshadowed the medical market.
For patients in New York, bare-bones dispensary shelves have been a battle since the Compassionate Care Act first rolled out. That's not the case in Denver.
These are great.
From hard candies to truffles, hand creams to fizzy drinks. There's dozens of ways to use marijuana and even more types of it. But for medical users, there's a major setback.
I see the results as a physician, but to have the politicians and the public accept marijuana as a medical treatment plan, we need science. And that's why Mend was formed.
Mechler and his team are still working to find out the best way for patients to use medical marijuana for specific symptoms. Whether their first round of Mend products will be vaporizers, capsules, or edibles is still up in the air. Now, this stuff is still federally illegal, and that causes a lot of red tape. It's something Dr. Mechler says makes it nearly impossible to get government funding to study. It's also one of the reasons he's here in Colorado, in hopes that conducting research might be a little easier with a larger patient pool and more products to research.
At the end of the day, yes, we stick our necks out. I have no problems treating my patients with something that I was unable to give them for 30 years and seeing a lot of my patients suffer, either from cancer or neurological disorders. After a while, a physician gets tired of seeing their patients suffer.
Dr. Mechler has explored doing research in Canada or on Native American sovereign land. He's been approached by a nation in California whose population is facing a serious opiate abuse problem.
It's something he feels strongly medical marijuana will help combat.
What's the fear here? Why is the red tape still there?
Well, part of it is a lack of science, lack of research. These are studies that are retrospective. So that's one issue. I would have to say there's an interest in a certain population or business companies that deal with opiates, pharmaceuticals, for example.
And those companies have made themselves heard in the fight against the medical cannabis movement.
Many doctors who prescribe medical marijuana say they are limited in the amount of research that they can do. The federal government does not recognize any medical benefits for the drug.
And it believes there's a high risk of addiction. News 4's Jen Shantz continues her special report on how one doctor is trying to change that.
Earlier this month, I spent a few days with local Dr. Laszlo Mechler in Denver. I got access to one of the largest grow operations in the country, one the media has never been allowed into before. So why was a Buffalo doctor called to Denver? A cannabis giant there wants him to develop a standard medical brand for marijuana. It would be the first of its kind.
Recreational to us is just an access point.
Eric Spidell is the co-CEO of The Green Solution, a large cannabis company in Denver. He's enlisted the help of Buffalo doctor Laszlo Mechler to add medical expertise to his products. Mend would be the first of its kind medical brand marijuana line.
Recreational medicinal product are no different in Colorado. If you were to ask anybody that is a licensee, they would tell you we grow medicinal plants next to recreational plants every day, and there's no difference between the two. The only difference is the tag that's on there.
Dr. Mechler is in the process of figuring out how best to administer the drug, through a vaporizer, edible, or capsule, for example.
The criticism of the New York program is it's very rigid and strict. I, in fact, like that because it's more physician controlled.
Here we have some grape stomper. This is our...
Dr. Mechler isn't really interested in the recreational side of cannabis, but there's a larger patient pool and more products to study here in Colorado. The knowledge Dr. Mechler gains in Denver, he'll bring back to Buffalo.
The unique merging of these companies, where you've got New York State, which has very limited conditions, very limited supply, but we can go to Colorado, which frankly the recreational market has somewhat overshadowed the medical market.
Mechler runs the Dent Cannabis Clinic in Amherst. When chronic pain was approved to be treated with medical marijuana, he saw an opportunity to curb a serious problem, opiate addiction.
After a while, opiates have a long list of side effects that patients do not like, and it affects their quality of life.
There's been studies to suggest medical marijuana cuts down on pain pill use. A new study looking at seniors substantiates what many doctors already assumed. According to the study published in Health Affairs, the typical physician in the 28 states where medical marijuana is legal prescribes significantly lower painkillers in a given year. The research was done at the University of Georgia, but only looked at prescriptions written under Medicare Part D from 2010 to 2013. Conducting thorough, comprehensive studies is hard when it comes to marijuana.
Given the fact that this is federally illegal, how do you research it? How do you test it?
The only studies Mechler can do in Western New York now are retrospective. Think of it as qualitative as opposed to quantitative. He doesn't claim medical marijuana will cure cancer. Its benefit, he says, is improving symptoms.
We see the patient, we offer a recommendation on what to take, and then when they come back for follow-up, then we have this data that we ask them to fill out. What was your diagnosis? What was your dosage? Did it help? If it helped, how much? What were your side effects? Did you have any side effects? Would you, tell me what the side effects are, or how severe were that?
For a scientist, this method isn't ideal.
There's always the placebo effect, and for that reason, the medical community would always criticize retrospective studies. That's not pure science.
While the reins are in many ways looser in Colorado, the DEA still has the medical marijuana market in a deadlock until it's moved from the Schedule I list, which also houses LSD and heroin. To date, the DEA has only issued a single license for the cultivation of cannabis for medical research. For now, Mechler wants to conduct as many qualitative studies as he can in Colorado to get Mend on the shelves there and hopefully expand to other states, including one day New York.
It needs to be yesterday. I mean, there are patients that really need this product, so it's really incumbent upon us to get it out there quickly.
There are studies that caution medical marijuana use. A recent report from the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine found states with legalized medical marijuana have higher instances of kids accidentally ingesting the drug. Dr. Mechler's argument here is that the likely benefits of curbing opiate abuse outweigh those possible risks. He points primarily to the fact that marijuana has never been linked to a fatal overdose. In the studio tonight, Jen Shantz, News 4 at 11.